So then, since you're all filmmakers, what do you think needs to go into a film that you would, let's not label it, but that you would say has an inspirational effect or transformational effect? What is the criterion that you think needs to be met? And what is the ideal effect of a movie that is bringing positive messages to people? What do you want the audience to experience?
I think there are two parts to the movie which are really important, or to the film. Anything that actually, this is true for anything. And one part is context and one part is content. So you can kind of think about it like a garden, right? So the context is what's holding the seeds that are going to become the flowers, and that soil has to be fertile, it has to be watered, it has to be taken care of. And I think in the creative process, you can only grow what will grow out of your soil. So it's really tremendously important how we make the movies that we make, how we make the shows we make, how we deal with each other. I mean, all of those things are super important. And that in and of itself is transformational. I remember when I was at HBO for years, I've talked to hundreds of people, it would seem like, on a production. And if I could just be like just a little light or a lot of light for one person or two people, it's like that ends up over time it multiplies, and you end up having a really positive effect on a large mass consciousness. And that's just about how one is being. The content is a slightly different thing because, there are certain things that I'm interested in. I'm doing this project with Dr. Judith Orloff, who's a psychiatrist, and Alan Watts or Edgar Cayce. Like, all of these things are things that I find personally interesting. But I'll say that the content, my view on content, and maybe this is good fodder for discussion, is that I'm kind of old school with the transformational thing. It's not so much like talking heads and imparting information. Because of my background studying Egyptian mysticism and mythology, there's an original metaphor that is pervasive throughout the whole world. And if you can identify it, it's in all these movies that we're doing right now in Hollywood. And they're ones that you wouldn't expect. I mean, everything from Cars to The Natural to The Matrix to the Adjustment Bureau is the first Aquarian Age movie in my book. And you can really break it down. If you look at the story that's being told, it's a teaching metaphor about the ascension of the soul. And it's an old story that's completely been passed down intact from ancient times. So I feel like, in a way, part of what Hollywood is doing really well is that it's making movies that have teaching metaphors in them, and the people that make them don't even know it. That's the thing that kills me. It's like, maybe conscious media is actually the people being conscious of the fact they're doing it. I remember, a great transformational movie in my book was The Dark Knight, and it's like, this movie is so dark, but that is a perfect story about the ego trying to take down the soul, and it's just like textbook. But if you talk to, as I did, I talked to David Goyer. I was like, well, where did this come from? He's like, I don't know. It wasn't a thing that he was really conscious of. But I think as channels are downloading all this stuff, and maybe that's something we can talk about more. But just the way that the movies and the things that I'm interested in and the TV shows I'm interested in have teaching metaphors in them. But sometimes they're very deeply under the surface, and that to me is like a perfect blend because it's entertaining when you watch it, but it comes away and has an effect on you. So.
I think that the most important element to a film is that I remember that I'm making a film that's entertainment. That's the first thing I'm doing. My company's motto is, or our mission statement is, purposeful entertainment, achieving global change. And so every film that I make has to have a story. And I have to remember that we're humans and we feel and we experience. And so, if you look at, the best example would be The BLEEP, because I think most people have seen it. There was a story in that movie, and we put a story there so that the audience would have an emotional experience, because that's how we work, pretty much, is that that's how we learn. If you look at The BLEEP, or any film that you can go and see that I've done, they're funny, they're silly, they don't take themselves too seriously. I mean, we have people dancing around with IV stands with their emotional addictions in the middle. It's a Busby Berkeley dance number in the middle of the BLEEP, you know, and so it's about having that emotional experience. So that's, for me, the first thing that I look for in any story that I'm going to tell, whether it's a straight documentary like the film I'm doing now, or a narrative, or some sort of hybrid. You know, it's really about telling a story.
Yeah, I think, you know, we can talk Hollywood and studio, but even the best Hollywood movies that everybody loves and keeps hoping and going to the theater hoping they're going to see has a catharsis of a character, and that's, you know, that's what we're all striving to make, those ones that stick with you and speak to everybody. So I think that, you know, it can be done in the Hollywood style, or it can be done in an independent way, and, you know, we all, those are the ones that are the blockbusters because they speak to everybody. And there's just a central humanity and commonality to every story, and that one character's journey that overcomes something.
Yeah, I have much and nothing to say on this. I'll try without the mic. I teach storytelling at Pepperdine University, so I talk to a lot of kids about storytelling. And I always tell them that the most powerful story they'll ever tell is the one they'll tell with their lives. So I think as quote-unquote filmmakers who wish to make a difference in the world, I believe our lives must reflect it, because the culture already senses on an energetic level, I can't hear what you're saying over all that you're doing. So I think our lives have to get in a line with whatever love or beauty or truth or challenge we show. So for me, all stories are about, all great stories are about one idea. One idea. And it's called the controlling idea if we narrow it down and break it down like a Sid Field screenwriting book. So there's a controlling idea that I either respond to or don't respond to. That tells me whether I'm going to make the movie or not. So love conquers all, the truth will set you free. Whatever that controlling idea is that I can get behind and be passionate about, that's whether or not I'm going to make the movie. And it's always about entertainment. Entertainment simply means to entertain someone is to hold their attention, right? It's no accident that we all were held in attention by your story, because you came out of something that our culture's been denying for years, sexuality, pornography, and we already know that instinctively, so we're so drawn, even though it's what we call a dark side, it's a side we don't want to face. So you've got our attention, right? Entertainment is to hold someone's attention, and then what you do with it is everything. So that's where that controlling idea comes back. I believe in humor myself, because it's a very brilliantly evolved behavior that our species has, because it makes you vulnerable. So I've made people laugh, and I've watched comics make people laugh, 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 and then you get in an idea at the end and it sinks in because humor hits you in the gut, you're vulnerable, and it's a seed that's planted and has a chance of sprouting. So that's it. And more, and less.
Now I know why Ace Ventura is my favorite movie ever when I was younger. Okay, so we kind of talked a little bit about why these films are important, but what are some of the stories you think that we still need to showcase? Because there is a lot of hero's journey out there. It's we all go through. But what are some of the stories that you think need to be shared, whether it's some of the projects you're working on right now, or some things that you would really like to see shot, filmed, and out there to the masses?
I will respectfully pass on this for our esteemed panelists. Come back to you later.
I guess the first thing, just from what's been on my mind lately, is the interconnectedness of our actions and the like.
Wait, I have an idea.
Like Greenland just melted, and we're still acting. We're still living our hypocrisies, and I'm not sure what the story is. But
I think that's an endless question. I mean, I think there's millions, I think everyone in this room has a really powerful story to tell if they're willing to go where they need to go to tell it. I mean, it's really what you said about being your story. So yeah, I mean, I think there's millions of stories to tell. I'm really partial to one right now. I just want to share about my friend who made a film called Beyond the Chair, which my company is distributing because it didn't seem like it would fit, but it's just one of these stories that blew my mind about a young man who has muscular dystrophy who decided to travel around the world by himself in a wheelchair. And it's probably one of the most spiritual movies I've ever seen in my life, just to watch this young man who did end up taking a film crew, college kids, and they put together this beautiful story about his transformation from basically being told that he's going to die and he should just stay home and die, to going to Taiwan and Cambodia and all these places. And again, this was a profound film, not because the filmmaking was very good, not because the editing was great, although the editing ended up being great. We got an editor to come in and make it wonderful, but just, it was life on the screen. It was life on the screen, and it was profound for me because that was a story. So I see that all the time, every day.
What I think we need, any story about truth is freaking awesome. About truth, and I believe there's a truth, and there's a zillion points of light and paths to that truth, but there's a truth. There's a way that this has been designed and the way things work, and if we would just open our eyes, we could see it and discern it. So any film about that rocks me, and I think we need. And any film that's outside of the paradigm already has my attention. By the paradigm, I mean the successful are the ones who they win in the business deal, and they get a lot of stuff by the end, or they get the girl, and they get. And anyone that, even anything that'll take on our educational system, which is absolutely needs reinvention. It's about this competitive winning model that needs to be reinvented. That's why kids are shooting themselves. It comes out of a stem that is rotten, out of a root that is rotten. It's a stem that comes from a rotten root. So anything like that, I'm excited about. Because education is everything, of course. This is education. Are we not in school right now? Were we not in school when we met each other tonight? Yes. It's all education. So that's it. I just want to see a new paradigm. We don't see things as they are. We see them as we are. So that's how I'm looking at these things, and others may be edified by them. But I'm tired of seeing somebody save the day for society. You know, that's kind of what we're teaching our kids. Someone's going to come along and save you because they're more courageous, or they're able to deal with something that you're not. And these are all projections that have to be reinvented and rethought.